everyone, and welcome to our Canvas training session this morning. I am very happy to be here with you today, and I hope that we can give you some great tools moving forward in your use of Canvas. So for the admins that are in the room, I've had just maybe one or two say that they can't log into Canvas. So for those of you in the room that haven't been able to log into Canvas yet, those questions will need to go directly to your Canvas administrator or tech help person in your building, just so that you can get started in Canvas and participate along with us today. Speaking of which, I do, as we get started today, encourage everyone to have their chat box open. If you haven't opened that up yet, anytime throughout our session that you have questions, or if you need to see something demonstrated again, feel free to put that in the chat box, and I'll be happy to get to as many as I can. I do ask that you keep your questions topic specific, however, so that while we're talking about the rich content editor, for instance, we're not asking questions about how do I create a quiz, just to keep our training on track. By way of introduction, my name is Pam Loveridge, and I'll be hosting our session today. I've been a math teacher for way too many years to admit to, and a Canvas user for more than 10 of those years. And the more I learn about Canvas, the more I love it, which is exactly why I'm here with you today. So since this is our first session together, I do want to put a couple of norms in place. My intent today is to walk you through those different aspects of Canvas and have you follow along and try out some of those features in your own course. But I also want to acknowledge that we have different levels of learners in our group, just like we would in any of our classes. And if you feel like you're what we're going to call a level 1 learner, where new technology is more difficult for you to learn, if at any point you start to feel overwhelmed or that we're going too fast, know that it's okay to simply sit back and watch and process the information. And we are recording these sessions, so you'll be able to circle back later with the video and try it on your own. If you are a level 2 learner where you're pretty good with new technology, but learn by doing, today's session is all about that. We're going to watch and dabble and process. But again, you'll be able to circle back later with those recordings for more depth. And if you're a level 3 learner where technology is very easy for you, maybe you've already been in exploring the Canvas platform, feel free to branch out a little bit, but you will want to kind of hang out with us today because we'll probably be covering sections of Canvas that you might not have found yet. So now would be the time to log into Canvas if you haven't had an opportunity to. Again, reach out to your administrator or tech support person, and they'll help you access Canvas if you've been unable to yet. On our agenda, we are going to go over the global navigation area of Canvas and some of the features there. Things like setting up your account, the Canvas calendar, and accessing Commons and help menus. And in addition, we're going to be going over some of the communication aspects of Canvas. We're going to focus on announcements, not for announcements' sake themselves, because I think they're pretty straightforward, but because we want to show you the rich content editor, or RCE for short, because the rich content editor is one of the main staples of creating content in Canvas. And it's something that is well worth your time to get to know. And once you've mastered that rich content editor, you probably know 60% of Canvas already. So that's something we definitely want to kind of introduce to you today. So we're going to kind of jump right in. As you log into Canvas, you'll notice that there is a bar over on the left-hand side. Yours is a different color. Let me hurry and switch tabs for just a moment. You'll see your, what we call our global navigation menu over on the left-hand side. Now, this menu are have tools that are independent of any courses. So that's why we call them global. They apply to your entire Canvas account, not to any specific course. So for instance, when I come to the calendar, everything for my entire course, including all of my, or everything for my account rather, including all of my courses, are going to be housed in a single calendar. All of my messages are going to come through the inbox, regardless of which course a student is part of. So these tools are fantastic, and we're going to get to know them. When you actually open up a course, you will see a completely separate menu called the course navigation bar or course navigation menu. And those tools are course specific. They will only apply to a single course. But for now, we're going to get to know some of that global navigation. And we're going to start up in the account area of that space. So if you would like to follow with me, go ahead and click on account. This is where we're going to find your settings. You're going to be able to set a profile picture if you'd like. You're going to be able to set up your notifications. And this is where you're going to access any shared content that you're sharing amongst your colleagues. So I'm going to switch back over to my Canvas account, and I'm going to come up and click on account as well. And let's just kind of walk through some of these pieces. First of all, let's talk about notifications, because you will definitely want to come in here and actually set up a lot of your notifications so that you're not getting too many, because really it can get a little overwhelming, to be honest, if you have all of those set up to be received. But also you want to make sure that you're getting the ones that are important to you. So I'm not going to have time to go through this whole list, because if you take the time to scroll down, this is a rather large list of possible notifications that you can receive. But let's just focus on one or two. So here I have my first two are due date and grading policies, so that anytime a due date is changed in one or more of my courses, I can receive a notification if I'd like. Or if my grading policy is changed, I can get a notification again. Now, over here on the far right-hand side, I see some little icons. If I click on that icon, I see 4 different options for notifications. First of all, I can be notified immediately. And if you notice up at the top of the screen, you should be seeing your teacher email account. These notifications will be directed to your email, so they will be email notifications. But I'm going to show you in just a moment where you can set up other ways to be notified as well. But you can be notified immediately so that you are instantly going to get an email based on any changes. You can opt to receive a daily summary, which is going to come out about maybe 3 or 4 o'clock, where you can get kind of a rundown of all the changes in that category that have occurred that day. You can opt for a weekly summary. Now that's going to come out on Friday afternoons, where you can get that, that kind of rundown of everything that's happened during the week. Or you can turn your notifications off. And you notice I have my notifications off for this setting, because chances are I'm the only one that's going to go in and change the due dates in my course. But if you have a co-teacher or maybe a TA enrolled in your course, then maybe it's a good idea to receive some notifications there, just so that you can be aware of any changes that are being made. Now, most of this area you will want to go through on your own time. Like I said, there are a lot of notifications here. This list is quite large, so we don't have time to go through it all during our session today, but kind of make a mental note to come back to your notifications area and be sure to set up those preferences. You will be reminded, by the way, because your inbox is going to be full of Canvas notifications until you come in and set this up. So next we have an area for files. If you want to click on files with me, this is an area where you can come in and upload files ahead of time that you know that you're going to be using in your Canvas courses. Now, this is completely optional. You do not have to come in and upload files ahead of time. You can do it on the fly as you create content. But just if you'd like to, this area is particularly helpful for maybe if you're teaching a vocational class and you have manuals that you need to provide for your students. This is a great use of this area where you can come in and upload all of those documents and files ahead of time. And you can create folders and subfolders so that you can organize the content. But again, you can come in and upload your files if you'd like to. Now, to get back to my account, I can either click on my name up at the top of the screen, or I can just click on account again so that I get that menu to reappear. It's thinking for just a moment. There we go. And now let's go to settings. Under settings, this is an area where you can actually do a few things. And sorry for my little bit of lag time here. I don't know why my computer is being a little bit slow. It maybe because I didn't restart it this morning. So we'll just kind of have to wait. But settings is an area where, again, you can come in and change some of your preferences. This is an area where you can see what name is going to be displayed for your students. This area has been set up by your administration, so not a lot of it can be changed. However, there are a few things you can do, like change your display name quite often. If you do want it to display something different, you're more than welcome to go to your Canvas admin and have them change it for you. But over on the right-hand side, I do want to show you these contact methods. First of all, you can add an additional email address. So if you want those notifications to go to a different email address other than your teacher account, and it's always going to go to your teacher account anyway, that's not something that you want to change. But you can add additional email addresses, I guess is how I should put that, so that your notifications can go to more than one place. You can also, under other contacts, if you add a different contact method, you can actually add a cell number as well. So if you want text notifications, you can receive those. So we're not going to spend too much time here in the settings area, and we're going to skip the ePortfolios because this is an area that's going to change in the next couple of weeks. So I don't want to be showing you something that you're not going to have access to. But I do want to show you the shared content area. Now, shared content, as we get into actually creating content, creating assignments or quizzes or pages, you're going to be able to share content with colleagues, at your school or in your district. But if you share, or if someone shares content with you, in Canvas, sharing means something different. When I share, let's say, an assignment with one or more of my colleagues, it doesn't give them access to my assignment. It's going to send them a copy of my assignment so that they can pull it into one of their courses and feel free to edit it. And that edited content will not affect the assignment in my own courses. But if someone does share something with you, this is where you're going to find it under the shared content link. So account and shared content, you will definitely want to get to know that area so that if you do share content with others, and if someone shares content with you, you'll know where to find it, and then you'll be able to pull it into any of your courses. Then down at the bottom, the global announcements area, your administration is going to be able to send out announcements called global announcements. And you're going to see those announcements as soon as you log into your Canvas account. But let's say that there's a global announcement that maybe you remember there was something important with that announcement, but it's no longer showing up on your screen. You can come here to the global announcements area and see those recent announcements that might be important for you to, that might have contained that important information that you need to know. So just know you can access older global announcements from this area. All right, next, we are going to go down to the dashboard. The dashboard is kind of your homepage for when you log into Canvas. It should automatically take you to that dashboard area. This is where you're going to have global navigation. You're going to see all of your cards. Now, we call this our global navigation menu, but again, you're going to be able to access all of your courses from the dashboard. Over on the right-hand side, once you actually have live courses with students, and those students start submitting assignments and quizzes, you're going to have a to-do list where you're going to be able to see all of those pieces that have been submitted to you and are waiting for you to go out and grade them. So let's actually go to our dashboard. So here I am in my Canvas course, and I'm going to click on dashboard. And I should see at least one course card, is what these are called, on my dashboard. Just so that I know kind of where we're at. Is there anyone in the room that does not have at least one course card showing up on your dashboard? And go ahead and drop that in the chat if you do not have at least one course card. Okay, so for those who don't have a course yet, over on the right-hand side of the screen, do you see this button that says start a new course? Okay, no worries. If they're still working on your login, that's okay. Just sit back and relax and just watch, and we are totally fine. But if you do not have a course, now before I walk you through this, I want to make it really, really clear that when a teacher creates a new course, this is called either a manually created course or a teacher created course. And it's very different from the live courses that are going to contain students that our district and schools are going to provide for us later. So when you create a new course on your own, it is never going to be a live course. It is never going to contain students. This is just creating what we call a sandbox course. It's just an area where you can go in and kind of play around with the different features of Canvas. You can practice creating content. You can actually create your actual content and copy it to some of your other live courses later. So if you already see at least one course card on your dashboard, you don't want to create a new one. But if you don't have at least one card here, we want to click on Start a New Course. And now we are going to actually name this with your name and the word Sandbox, just so that you can identify that this is, your Sandbox course where you can go in and practice creating content. So for instance, my new course is going to be called Pam Sandbox, but you'll want to put your name and the word Sandbox in the title. Don't change any of these other settings. You always want your courses to be private, and you do not want to make this course publicly visible. But once you put that title in, we just are going to click on Create Course, And then it will create one of these course cards on your dashboard. Now, if your course is unpublished, and sorry for the scrolling, I know that's kind of hard to watch in a presentation, it's going to show down here under unpublished courses, and that is completely fine. In Canvas, anytime we want a student to see our content, it must be published, no matter if it's an assignment. So once we get into Canvas, you'll see that we can publish assignments, we can publish discussions, we can publish quizzes, we can even publish modules, which we'll discuss in a later session. But even the course itself needs to be published. Now, since this course, that sandbox course, is not going to ever contain students, it doesn't really matter if it's published or not. But let me show you quickly. If you click on that publish button, I'm going to get an option that's going to actually display for me. Oh, it didn't ask me to do that. Never mind. That's okay. But now it's going to show up. And if I scroll back up a little bit, now it's going to show up here with my published courses. So again, feel free to publish the course that's on your dashboard. There's no risk in publishing that course, but just know that if it is unpublished, just click on that unpublished button. So just a couple of things about these course cards. You can see that my course cards are displayed in different colors. And I even have pictures, kind of background pictures on some of my course cards, and we'll hopefully have time to show you how to do that today. But I want you to notice on every course card, you see these 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. Now, those 3 dots in Canvas have a special meaning, and you are going to see them literally everywhere in Canvas. That means that I want to, or that there's more options available. So if I click on those 3 dots, I'm going to get a list. And thank you for telling me about that message. I expected it to show up on my screen as well. But when you click on publish and a message pops up, it's asking you to choose a home page. Click on any of those options that are available right now. We'll talk about home pages in one of our future sessions, but go ahead and just click on one of those options so that the publish button actually appears. That I think it's probably a blue button in the lower right-hand corner. And then go ahead and click on publish your course. I think it says choose and publish or something like that. So click on any of those options. We're going to show you how to choose a home page a little later on, but just so that you can get your course published. All right, so again, on my course card, I can click on those 3 dots. Notice that it comes up with some color choices. I can come in here and easily select one of those colors and click on apply, and then the color of my course card actually changes. But also in that area, notice down at the bottom, there's a number, well, kind of a mix of numbers and letters, I guess I should say. This is actually a color code. And to get really specific, it's a hexadecimal color code, or hex color for short. If for some reason you want a color other than what's displaying on that list, I can actually come up to the top of my browser and open up a new window, and I can do a search for hex colors. And you can see that there are about 183 million websites that talk about hex colors. But if I just simply click on one of those, I can customize my color. So if I want a nice teal color, I can come in here and choose one, or if I want a really nice orange or something to that effect. Ooh, these are pretty good. I like that one. So notice there's a hex color up above. I can just copy that hex color and come back to my dashboard and just paste it right there in the box. And once I click on apply, that new color is in place. Apparently I've used a color similar to that for one of my other courses. but that's okay. This is also a drag and drop area where if I have some courses that I use more often than others, I can just drag these around my screen. And I'll show you how to get those pictures a little later on in our session today. But if I am unable to use a mouse to drag and drop, there is an option to move this course card throughout my list. So I can move it, this one can only move down, but my other course cards can move up, down to the top of the list or to the bottom of the list. So just know that there's a lot of additional options under those three dots. So three dots will always mean that there's something more that you can do there. Notice I have those three dots in the very upper part of my screen as well. That applies to the entire area. And if I click on those three dots, I can see that I'm currently visualizing, visualing. Oh heavens, I need to go back to sleep, I think. But I'm currently seeing my card view with a color overlay. But I also have a list view and a recent activity view that I can opt for my dashboard. And I'm actually going to give you just maybe just a minute. We've already kind of created that sandbox course, but to kind of play around with those different dashboard views, maybe set some colors, try some different colors out on your course card. And after a minute of taking some time to explore this area, we'll move on. All right. So after we have after we've explored our dashboard, there is a courses option here as well, where I can see a list view of all of my courses. If I scroll down to the bottom of that list, and after you get a lot of courses, you actually have to scroll. Right now, you probably don't, but you see a link for all courses. So this again is just showing me a list view of all my courses. If there is a course that is in this list but not showing up on your dashboard, notice that they have stars over here on the left-hand side. I can actually click on those stars and favorite my courses, and that's actually going to just ensure that that shows up on my dashboard. So just know all of your live courses should by default show up on your dashboard anyway. But if there's one that you want to make sure that's there, feel free to come in and favorite your course. And next, we are going to go to the Canvas calendar. Let's just take a look at that for a moment. Under our global navigation under calendar, this is an area where you are going to see all of the events for every single one of your courses. And if you look over on the right-hand side, you should see your new course listed, and it should have the same color that you just put on your dashboard. So this is color coordinated with my course card on my dashboard. But notice my calendar is color coordinated to my courses as well. I also have a personal calendar up at the top where I can add events just for myself and just for my information only. Now, just a couple of quick things about the calendar. I don't want to spend too much time here, but anything that you have in a course with a due date is automatically going to show up on the calendar, and students will have their own calendar as well. So they'll be able to come to the calendar and see everything that has a due date in their course. Now you can add additional events on your calendar by simply clicking on a date. So I'm going to go to August because July is quickly, we only have like another week in July. Isn't that amazing? But notice I have, and as soon as I switch that, it disappeared. It'll come back up. But simply by clicking on a date, I can add additional events to my calendar. I can add events. I can actually add new assignments from here. I can just add to my to-do list, or I can schedule appointment groups. By the way, if you are teaching something like a performing arts class and you need to schedule audition times or maybe times during class to pass off, maybe playing a new piece or playing a scale, these appointment groups are fantastic. And for all of the other classes too, if you are ever doing oral presentations or something to that effect and you want students to sign up for a time, you can actually come in here and set up appointment groups and have students be able to go on their calendar and sign up for one of those appointments. But anyway, let's just quickly put an event on our calendar. I'm just going to say that this is going to be the end of the term, just because that's a great event to put on our calendars. And notice that the date that I clicked on is already in place, but I can click on this calendar and choose a completely different date. I can even put a time frame in here. So this is the time when it starts and when it ends. If I leave it blank, it's just an all-day event. I can even put a location, and down at the bottom, I have a drop-down menu where I can choose what course this is going to apply to. There is a more options area where you can go in and put additional information and duplicate this event, like I did with a dress rehearsal where you see multiple events there. But we're just going to quickly click on submit, and there's my end of term date. Items on the calendar are very easy to change. You can just drag and drop them to a different area of your calendar. But I do want to let you know that if this is actually an assignment with a due date, and I'm going to go back to July where I had some assignments. If this is an assignment with a due date, I can actually just drag that to a different date, and it's automatically going to adjust the due date in my course. How fantastic is that? But the last thing I want to show you here, down here where it says calendar feed, you can actually put your Canvas calendar into one of your other calendar apps if you'd like. If you click on calendar feed, you can go into your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, your iCalendar, several other calendar apps. You can add a new calendar there and just copy and paste this URL, and your Canvas calendar is going to show up in that other space. You can't bring other calendars into Canvas, but you can bring your Canvas calendar to outside calendar apps. All right, the inbox, we just should quickly mention, this is email for Canvas. So you can message students, you can message entire classes or just sections within a class, but you can email from here and students can send messages to you. Now, I don't want you to feel like the Canvas inbox is an additional burden. This is not a place that you always have to come and check your emails, because any message that is sent to you here will also show up in your teacher email account. And by the same token, if you send a student or group of students a message, those messages are going to show up in their student email accounts. So this is just kind of an additional place where you can receive and send messages. And I think just quickly to mention, I don't want to spend a lot of time here because we have other things to do, but under the Commons, if you have an opportunity to go and later on to go out and explore that Canvas Commons. This is actually a repository of learning objects that are free for you to use in Canvas. So they're shared out by other teachers. You are actually free to share your content into Commons as well if you'd like. But if you're looking for ideas for pages or looking for ideas for assignments, you can go out and look in Commons and you can actually pull a copy of that content into one or more of your courses. And great question actually came into the chat. The inbox, you can't message other teachers from here. You can message a co-teacher, but you can't message teachers who are not enrolled in at least one of your courses. But this is just mainly intended for students. But yes, if you have another teacher enrolled in your course, you can absolutely message them. Down here under help, I definitely want to show you this piece. Oh, there's not a whole lot in here. That's okay. But we have some help guides like Canvas guides that normally show up here in the help, but that's okay. But they do have some great resources in here for you. So we'll talk about that Canvas community a little bit later. But for now, I wanted to give you just an opportunity to try creating an event on your calendar and maybe dragging and dropping one of those events into a new date. But I'm going to give you just 1 minute to go ahead and try creating a new event on your calendar and dragging and dropping it to a new space, and then we'll move on. Okay, so now that we have looked at those, sorry, I didn't mean to go to that other tab. Now that we've taken a look at the calendar, and here is again another snapshot of that inbox. Let me hurry and go to, let's see, go to our next slide. We're actually going to open up one of our courses now. So in your Canvas course, let's go back to our dashboard. And let's actually click on the title of your course that's on your dashboard. And we're going to open up our course and see some of the content that's there. Now, I should say that by default, you're going to see what's called the module page in Canvas. So chances are when you open up your course, it looks like this. But again, we'll talk in future sessions on how to create a great homepage for your courses and how to designate which page is going to be that all-important opening screen for your students. So what we want to do right now is talk about this menu that appears on the left-hand side when we opened up our course, called the course navigation menu. So some of the important pieces that you need to know about this course navigation menu, first of all, it is customizable. And you can actually hide options from students, and you will want to do that. It's actually best practices to do that. And I'm going to show you how and talk a little bit about best practices. But I also want you to know that this course navigation menu is course specific. This only applies to a single course. The reason that they do that is because there are different needs for different types of courses. So when you go in and customize this course menu, it only applies to that single course. And you'll do that once for every one of your courses, but it only takes a few seconds. So it's actually not a huge burden to do. So what we're going to do first is we're going to come all the way down, and you might need to scroll a little bit. We're going to come all the way down to the settings link at the very bottom of that menu. And that settings area is actually going to be one of your best friends throughout Canvas. Now you should be seeing, once you go into settings, you should be seeing 6 tabs across the top of the screen. Now, before we actually investigate some of those other tabs, under course details, which is where you should be right now, you don't want to change a lot of these course details. In fact, most of them you want to leave alone because these are actually set by your school or by your district. So this is not an area where we want to change. However, let me talk about this image box at the top, because when you saw those images on my course cards, this is where we can choose that image. So under choose image, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that link, I see 2 tabs up at the top. Oh, I apologize. You can upload an image directly off your computer. So if you use an outside graphics design tool like Canva or Haiku Deck or Adobe Illustrator or Google Draw, you can actually create your own images for Canvas and upload those images here. But I want to show you this Unsplash option. This is something that I absolutely love in Canvas. This is a repository of images that are free for you to use in Canvas. You can't customize those images in any way, but there are literally thousands of images in here for you to use. So what I do to use Unsplash is actually just use that search bar, and I can search for any topic. So if I want a nice image of, let's say, a rainbow, I can just type rainbow and I get so many images to choose from. And down at the bottom, see where it says next page? There's probably 200 pages of just rainbows for me to look at. But I'm just going to select one of those images. Oh, I really like this one down here, actually. I'm going to choose that one. And that's going to be the background for my course card now. And you can come back at any time and remove that image or choose a new image. But feel free, there's some great ones for school. I found, let me go back in and choose a different image. There's some great ones with, let's say, books. I love this one. There's so many really great images in here. And if I am teaching younger students, I can even look for things like puppy images. How cute are some of those, right? There's so many things that you can do with Unsplash. Or if you're teaching maybe the, auto shop class, I can search for cool cars and I can get some great images of cars. There's so many in here. But once you click on one of those images, it is going to show up in that screen. So you're not seeing settings down at the bottom. Did you open up one of the courses, Michelle? Because so back on your dashboard, let me just clarify. So on your dashboard, when you click on the course card, and there's my rainbow image, but if I click on the course card, if it's going to open up, my computer is just being slow. It should be clear down at the bottom of that area. Everybody should have access to settings. And to answer the most recent question, to change the name of a course, if it's a live course, no, you do not want to change the name of a course. You can give your course a nickname on your course card on the dashboard, but under settings, you do not want to change the name of a course in a live course. But yeah, if it's just your sandbox course, come in and change the name as much as you want. But again, just not for live courses that hold students. Oh, that's good. Now, some of this is going to be customized. I should say that you probably won't see everything that I have on my screen because I have special permissions, but let me see. Let me just check something really quickly. I'm going to go in and see why that settings option isn't showing up. So give me just a moment, if you would. But like I was saying, this can actually be customized by your Canvas admin. So if there's something that's missing from your screen that you're seeing on mine, that's probably why. But let me see if I can find where that is. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see anything that would say that settings has been disabled. So we might have to investigate that just a little bit and come back to that. But down at the bottom, if you do update that image, there is an update course details. Is anybody else missing that option, by the way, that settings option? But once you click on update course details, it's actually going to save your changes in that space. No, my throat is a little itchy this morning. Okay, is course notifications. All right, is anybody besides Michelle missing the settings though? Wait, you see course notifications over here? I don't see course notifications at all. Now you're not up here in the account setting though, right? You're actually in your course itself. So if I open up the actual course, I don't see a course notifications here. Okay, we might have to get a tech help person from your institution to come and help you with that, because I don't have any way, unfortunately, to see your screen. So I can't help, unfortunately, there. But let's go back down to settings. Just sit back and watch, Michelle, and I'm sure that we'll be able to figure that out. But what I really want to show you here is this navigation tab in the middle. So notice that under navigation, this list is a direct reflection of my course navigation menu. So I can make a lot of changes in that space. For instance, if I want grades to be further up in my list, I can simply drag and drop that into place. Notice I have those same 3 dots. I can actually move this option from here as well if I can't drag and drop. But what I want to show you is a little further down the list. So if you would scroll down with me, clear to the bottom of that screen, there is this imaginary line here called drag items here to hide them from students. So as you get further into learning about Canvas, you'll learn about something called modules. And modules is where we're actually going to go and set up our course flow. Modules is kind of where we're going to have our lesson plan, right? So we're going to go in and create all these great assignments and great assessments and pages and everything else under the sun. But everything is going to be housed in this modules area. So I'm going to be able to see under, and I'm going to scroll back up just for a second. Under my assignments area, I'm going to be able to see a list of all of my assignments. And under my quizzes area, I'm going to be able to see a list of all my quizzes. But it's not very, it doesn't work very well to let students see just this random list of assignments and this random list of quizzes. We want things to be set up so that it makes sense to students, and that's what modules are for. So what we want to do is we actually want to pull all of those other options down below. So for instance, my students don't need to see the attendance list. They don't need to see my rubrics because they're going to see them when I attach them to an assignment or a quiz or a discussion. They don't need to see collaborations. They don't need to see my outcomes, right? There are so many pieces that students should not have access to that most of your options are going to be down at the bottom. In fact, it is actually best practice that if you are teaching our very youngest students, you should maybe only have 1 or 2 options up above. You might just want them to have home and modules, for instance, and everything else is going to be down there hidden from students. Even with older students, it is best practices only to have maybe 3 or 4 or even 5 options in their navigation. So more often than not, we want them to have access to their grades, right? And students will only be able to see their own grades. We want them to have access to our announcements, and we want them to have access to our modules. But to be honest, if they have access to those 4 items right there, they're going to have access to pretty much everything in your course. So if there are certain classes where you need to provide more than just those 4 options, but I can come over here. If I don't want to drag and drop, I can just come over here to the more options menu and click on disable, and that's going to move it to the bottom part of that list. But you do want to come in and disable the vast majority of these navigation options. So again, this was in the settings area and under the navigation tab. So what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to give you just a minute to come in and kind of play around with customizing this navigation. What I don't want you to forget, however, is down at the very bottom of the screen, there is a save button. So if you want to save your changes and not have to do this again for this course, definitely come down and save your changes. But I'm going to give you just a minute to kind of play around with customizing that menu, and then we'll move on from there. Okay. So now that we have had an opportunity to save those changes, and by the way, when you click on save, that should now start kind of customizing that menu. Now, when you see that eyeball with a line through it, that symbol next to those menu options, that means that those menu options have been hidden from students. I know that announcements and modules, And even files are currently in the upper half of that list. The reason that they're hidden is because we don't have any content for students to view there yet. So they're not going to have access to it because there's just no content there. So for high school, and that's a great question, for high school, I would just give them home, announcements, modules, and grades. That is really all they need access to because everything is going to be provided for them here in that modules area. So as long as they have access to modules, they're just fine. But notice down below, I noticed that your district has actually put some integrations in here. Item banks are your quiz questions, by the way. You don't want them having access to that. But if they need to have access to WebEx, you might want to leave that available for them. Or if they need access to Safari Montage or Discovery Ed, you can leave some of these additional options for them to have access to. But again, your course content, so your assignments, your links, your files, everything can be provided for them here in the modules area. So as long as they have home, announcements, modules, and grades, they're probably going to be just fine. But this really, limiting those options is going to be immense. Under modules, and I know that we're not to that point yet, but you can actually control student access to your content. You can set up things like requirements and prerequisites in your modules area. And if you let them see that list of assignments, if you haven't hidden that assignments link, for instance, from your students, then coming here and setting it up in your modules area will be for naught because they'll be able to go in and just access any assignment in your course anyway. So hiding those options from students is actually a really important part of setting up your course. So let's talk now. Let's see, let me get back to my agenda. Let's go back to our home screen for just a moment. And once you start creating courses and content, you're going to see a little more on this screen. But what we want to do right now is we are going to come right here to the announcements area. So if you want to find your announcements link and click on that link, that's going to take us to what we call our announcements index. So we have a lot of what we call indexes in Canvas. We have an assignments index and a quiz index. Index just means list. So when I say announcements index, that means I'm here on my announcement screen and I am just going to see a list of all the announcements in my course. So to create a brand new announcement, we are going to come up to the upper right-hand corner and we are going to click on that Add Announcement button. And that's going to open up our, what we call a rich content editor. This is kind of our announcements template where we can come and create an announcement. And the first thing we want to do is give our announcement a title. Now, when your student sees this announcement, the title is the first thing that they're going to see. So it's important that we put something kind of, descriptive in that box. So I'm going to just say field trip permission slips are due. But what we really want to focus on here is this space. This is our rich content editor. And this is going to be all throughout Canvas. You are going to see it when you create an assignment, when you create a quiz, when you create a discussion, when you create a page. This is everywhere in Canvas. And so once, like I said before, once you get to know the rich content editor, Canvas is going to be so much easier for you. And it's really user-friendly, except that there are some icons on here that have some special properties that I wish I had known my first year of using Canvas. So we're going to walk through that rich content editor. Before we do, though, I want to scroll down just a second and show you some of these options for announcements as long as we're here. You can actually post this to everyone in your course, but if you see that little X next to all sections, if I X that off, it's going to remove all sections and I can see a list of all the students in my course. I can actually send an announcement to just specific students. So I can put student names in here. I can attach a file. I can delay posting. This is amazing. I love delaying posting because I can come in and create an announcement ahead of time. And I can say, I don't want this announcement posted until Monday morning. So if I create it today, I can post it on the 26th. I love that option. You can allow your students to comment. You can even allow students to post a comment before seeing other students' comments. You can allow them to like your announcement. The enable podcast feed, that's a little deceiving to me, I think. What that does is takes all your students' comments and posts it to maybe a podcast app that you have so that you can see those comments offline and away from Canvas. So it's not like you can put your podcast feed here as an announcement, but just know that you can delay posting. So now let's come back up to that rich content editor. And like I said, this is kind of an important part of Canvas. So we want to really focus on that rich content editor for the remainder of our time together today. So first of all, parts of the rich content editor, you're going to know exactly what they're for, like our text formatting tools, our page formatting tools. Those pieces we're not going to take the time to go over because we're well aware of what those are for. However, I want to start up at the menu bar, talk just briefly about our paragraph formatting, and then go through these images right here, these icons. Those are unique to Canvas, and I want to show you how they function. But let's start with that menu bar. So the menu bar, we know how menus work, right? You click on the word and you get a whole bunch of options, but in the Canvas menus. So before I finish that sentence, let me say this. You see a whole bunch of icons at the top of that rich content editor. All of those icons can be found up here in the menus. However, the menus actually contain so much more. We had a limited amount of space for these icons, so some of the options had to be up here in our menu bar. So let me show you what I mean. For instance, right here with my text editing features, I see ones that are familiar, like bold and italicize and underline, changing the font color and things like that. But when I come up to the format menu, I actually have a whole bunch of additional options. Things like strike through, entering code. Coming down here, here's where I can choose from additional fonts. So if you have something that you want to do in that rich content editor that you can't find, come up here and explore some of those menus and you might be able to find what you're looking for. So we're not going to take too much time in those menus, but I did just want to let you know that there's additional tools up there. Next, let's talk about that paragraph formatting. When you start creating your content, we always want to keep accessibility in mind. And the way that we usually create our content is actually not very accessibility friendly. So using these paragraph or using this paragraph formatting is actually a way to create accessible friendly content while we, from the very get-go. So let me show you what I mean. Normally, when I create a page title, I'm just going to put the word title here because I'm super creative that way. But normally, I would change the font size and maybe change the color, but that actually doesn't make it very accessible friendly. So I'm going to instead use one of my paragraph settings. I can actually use one of these heading features, and it's automatically going to change the size of my font. I can even come in here and bold. I can even change color, although to be, to keep that accessibility content in mind, I want to choose dark colors so that I have a high contrast ratio. But I can come in and change the color to a dark color, avoiding pastels and light colors. And I can even use my page formatting, which right now is hidden in this menu because I don't have room on my screen for it all. But I can even align it so that it's centered on my page. But let me tell you why I might want to use those heading settings instead. If I have a student who's sight impaired and they need to use the screen reader in Canvas to help them out, that screen reader is going to use those paragraph settings to identify that that is a title. So just know that as you're creating your content, instead of only changing size and color, utilize some of those heading features and your content will be ready to go. If you'll keep accessibility in mind from the very start, then later on you won't have to go back and change a whole bunch of your content. So just kind of mentioning there, but let's go ahead and hit enter a couple of times. And let's start talking about some of these icons right here. And nope, I don't think there's a way to customize, but someone who is really familiar with HTML might be able to figure that out. But what I want to do, I want to come to this links area very first. Now, under links, and let me find the right slide here. There we go. Under that link option, there's or next to it, I should say, there's an arrow. And if you click on that arrow, you're going to see two different options, one for external links and one for course links. External link allows us to link something to an outside web page. A course link allows me to link to something else in my course. So I can actually link to an assignment, or I can link to a module, or I can link to a quiz. So we're going to focus on external links for right now. So what I'd like you to do is find a new space in your rich content editor, and let's go up to that link icon. And clicking on that down arrow, let's choose external link. And I get two boxes here, one for text and one for link. So what I'm going to do is come up to the top of my window and click on that plus to open up a new tab again. And I'm going to search for a website that I use with my students. And I am just obsessed with these San Diego Zoo live camps. So I'm going to use that one. And I love the polar bear cam, but you can search for any website that you'd like. But I'm going to come to this polar bear cam so that I can just sit and watch polar bears. But what we're here for is not to watch polar bears, of course. We're here to learn about links. So I'm just going to come up to the top of the window where I see my address bar, that URL. And I'm just going to click there to highlight it. And I'm going to copy, so Command C or Control C, depending on what kind of device you're on. And I'm going to come back to Canvas and I'm going to paste that address in the link box. Now, it is never best practices to leave an exposed link in your course. So we want to put some more user-friendly text on our screen, and that's what the text box is for. You can see that I've used that before. So I'm going to put just Polar Cam at the San Diego Zoo and then come down and click on Done. Notice that what's in the text box is what gets displayed on my screen, but when students click on that text, it will open up that website. Now, you should know too that some websites have the correct permissions and have been designated student friendly, And some of your links will actually open up right here inside of the Canvas platform. Other websites will actually force your students to open up a new tab when they click on that link. But just know that there are some websites out there that will just open up right here and let your students stay in the Canvas screen. So I'm going to hit enter a couple of times again. And let's go to that next icon, our image icon. Again, I have that down arrow, and this time I have 3 different options. One to upload an image off my device, one to use a course image. What a course image is if you've already used an image in one or more of your courses, instead of uploading it again into Canvas, you can access those course images that you've used before from the Course Images tab. Or user images, this actually allows you to access your files area. So if you've uploaded images beforehand that you'd like to use, that's what user images is for. For now, since I don't have any images in my course, I'm going to upload an image, and let me zoom back out so we can see that window. So I can upload directly from my device. I can just post a URL to the image that I want to be displayed, or I have that same unsplash option. So this time I'm going to look, oh, I love some of those puppy images. So I'm just going to choose puppy. And I'm going to just choose one of these adorable puppies to be on my page. And then I'm going to click on submit. And there is my puppy. So because this is kind of a small window, I want to show you these dots down in the lower right-hand side where if I drag that, it's actually going to open up that space a little bit. Even so, you're probably saying that image is huge. I don't want that big image on my page. Well, we can fix that, of course. So I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. I'm going to click on that image. Notice I get a blue border. I have corners that I can simply drag and drop to resize my image, but I want to show you this image options up at the top of that screen. So here is where I can put in some alternative text for screen readers, also for students who are trying to access this from home and their Wi-Fi is not good enough to allow them to load the image on the page. They're going to have access to this alt text. So you'll want to make sure that there's some alt text involved. If this image has no purpose in your course other than to make it beautiful, you can check the decorative image box and the alt text box will be skipped. Scrolling down just a little bit, you can display the image itself, or you can just display a link that when students click on that link, it's going to open up in a new tab. But down under size, there's actually some pre-made size options here if you don't want to custom size it. I'm just going to choose medium for now. And once I click on done, this is a medium size image in Canvas. And now when I have that selected, I can come over here and do things like align it to the center of my page and all that good stuff. And now I'm going to hit enter again a couple of times and scroll down so that we can do a little bit more. This time, let's come to that next icon over, the media icon. And if I click on that down arrow, again, I can upload or I can record my own media. You can access media that's been used in one or more courses or media that's been uploaded to your files. But what I want to do is come up to the upload record media option. And again, I'll scroll back out so we can see that window or zoom back out. Now, again, I can upload right off my device, but what I want to show you is this record option. And no judgment, everybody, because I'm working from home, but you're going to see me in all my work from home glory today. Once you click on record, it's going to ask you to allow access to your microphone and camera. but watch what you can do. Hello, everyone. That's my daughter's wedding dress. But here I am at home. Notice the blue start recording button down below. You can turn off your webcam too, by the way, and say no video and just have an audio recording. But I'm going to click on start recording and it's going to give me a countdown and I'm going to say, hey, everybody. And I'm going to click on finish and save. And that's actually going to embed that content right in my rich content editor. So imagine you can give video announcements. You can create video instructions for an assignment or quiz. You can have video discussions, right? There's no limit. Now, this recording feature is only intended for small, short videos. It is not intended for entire lessons worth of content. And I'm going to delete that because that's really an unflattering picture, but know that you can record your own content. I love that, especially for young students or students who maybe are struggling to learn English language, like our ELL students, or for students who might be sight impaired, or just because I like to provide my students with video instructions because they don't very often read through them, right? But that video is fantastic. Now, last but not least, I want to show you this documents. Well, not last. We have one more to go over after this, but here's our documents icon. And I can upload a document, choose from documents already used in a course, or select from documents from my files. I'm going to upload a document to my screen. And zooming back out. Notice that there's no other tabs here. I can only upload right from my device. So I'm going to quickly pick a file and I'm going to add it. And once I click on submit, I get a link on my page. Now I know that that link is very unimpressive, right? Big deal. There's a link to my document. And as a matter of fact, if students click on this link, it would force them to download it before they could open it. But the reason I'm showing you this today is because there's something more. There's a second step that you don't want to miss when uploading documents into the rich content editor. So since this is an announcement, imagine if I uploaded maybe a flyer for something, or, you know, attached a permission slip for my field trip or something to that effect. But here's that second step. And I wish I had known this my first year of using Canvas. You can click on that link and there's a link options button that appears. And if I click on link options, I'm going to get some options over on the right-hand side. First of which, I can change the text that's displayed on the screen. Do not ever change the link, but I can change the text. So I'm just going to say, here is our document, but you know, you'll put something a little better there. But here's what I wanted to show you. What you're seeing with that link, that's called preview in overlay. The better option is preview in line and expand preview by default. And when I come down here and click on done, did you see that yellow flash and my text changed? And right now it's still pretty unimpressive, right? It's just a link, but wait. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom of the screen and I am going to click on save and be prepared. Hold on to the edge of your seat, right? Watch what happens. Ta-da! There is my document showing right up on my screen. And students can zoom in and out, they can navigate, they can rotate, they can make it full screen. They can even come up and download if they want to. They can minimize that preview. And if they click on the link again, it will open my document back up. But how much better is that rather than just displaying that link on the screen? Now, this is just an announcement. So this is for viewing purposes only. And anything in the rich content editor is going to be viewing purposes only. But just know that, that there's options there. So I'm going to come back up to the top and I'm going to edit again so that I can continue working in my rich content editor. I don't know about you, but the time has flown for me this morning. But here in the rich content editor, I want to show you these two options. The first is this plug icon, and the second can be found under the more options menu. I want to show you the cloud icon. By the way, here's where you're going to find the table options and the equation editor. And for those of you who are in high school math or middle school math even, you can change that to advanced view and put in LaTeX code for more advanced equations that you can't find in the equation editor itself. But let's start with that plug icon. So the plug icon is for external tools. So this is where you're going to come and access your Google Drive, for instance. This is where you're going to come and you can come and access Adobe Spark or your Office account, right? These are external tools that have been added to your account, and you can actually add external tools as long as they've been approved by your institution in that settings area of your course. But let's say that I wanted to include something off my Google Drive. I'm going to hurry and click Google Drive LTI, and I'm going to select a file. And I know you can't see that pop-up window, but it actually links to my Google Drive. And I can put one of my files right here inside my rich content editor. Let me expand that again. But there's one of my slide presentations, and it's going to be housed right here in the rich content editor. And again, that's under external tools. But I can also, and let me come all the way down to the bottom of my rich content editor. I'm going to make sure that I have some space down at the bottom. But that very last tool, that cloud, that's an embed tool. So I can go out to like YouTube, or I don't know, there's so many. I actually have a favorite website called PhET. And if you've never been there, they have simulations. In fact, I'm going to hurry and post that link in the chat if you want to try it out. But they have created simulations that are free for us to use for quite a few topics. So I'm going to come into this physics one. And there's so many simulations. They are so fun, but they're great interactive ways for students to learn and practice content. But there's one, I love this skate park one. But see that embed icon, and you can do the same if you go to maybe one of your documents and there's that share link. Usually under share, you can find embed as well. But it comes up with a little bit of HTML code, and I don't need to know anything about HTML code to use this. I'm just going to copy, and then I'm going to come back to my rich content editor, and I'm going to paste that HTML code in that embed code space, and watch what happens when I click on submit. That simulation is embedded right on my rich content, or right in my rich content editor. And students are actually going to be able to interact with this content right there. So again, imagine if you were doing this for an assignment or for a page, just so students can have this to kind of play around with and learn from. But it doesn't take up any file space. It's just like linking to a video or to a simulation like this. But as long as you're able to use some embed code, that's a fantastic use of the rich content editor. And to answer that last question, yes, we are recording our presentation today, so you will have access to this later on to go back and review. Down at the very bottom of the rich content editor, I see that HTML symbol again. I can actually change my entire page to HTML code If I know anything about HTML code, I can actually edit my content that way. But if I click on that again, it's going to take me back to my regular page or to my regular announcement. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to click on save because we need to leave this space because we are almost out of time. Before we leave today, I want to provide you with something called the Course Design Checklist. It is actually a checklist of content, and I'm going to put the link in the chat box so that you can grab that. But it's just a checklist of best practices when designing an online course. And this one is specific to Canvas, but it talks about things that are essential and foundational for your courses. And then a little further down the list, you'll see 2 and 3 stars. Those are best practice and exemplary. Those you might not be able to get to your first year of using Canvas. They might be goals for future years. If you can get to them this year, fantastic. But at first, focus on those foundational items. There's 10 of them in this list. Just in setting up your courses, it will let you know what to focus on very first, and then what you can look towards doing later on. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me today. I've appreciated your questions. I hope that we've given you some great tools to start creating your Canvas content, especially with that rich content editor. And I hope the rest of your day is fantastic.